Welcome, and thank you for the opportunity to address the 2022 Avenza User Conference. My name is Larry Garland. I am the staff cartographer for the Appalachian Mountain Club. Today's presentation is about the AMC's nearly 150-year legacy of making maps. For those that may not be familiar with our organization, I'll introduce the club's founding, talk about our current mission and what we do. Then we'll take a look back at the evolution of map making within the club over the last century and a half. The Appalachian Mountain Club, founded in 1876, is the oldest conservation and recreation organization in the United States. The original charter focused on exploring the mountains of New England and adjacent regions, both for scientific and artistic purposes. My work today builds on this legacy of producing detailed and accurate maps upon a large scale and in the very best style of workmanship. Thus, my job description was written 146 years ago. Today, the mission of the AMC is to foster the protection, enjoyment, and understanding of the outdoors. Our core values are reflected in three strategic themes: active conservation, outdoor journey, and recreational network. These values reflect our belief that the outdoors occupies a place of central importance in every person's life. We are a member-based organization comprised of chapters, staff, volunteers, and partnerships. Our service area includes the northeastern United States. We operate several lodges, full-service camps, mountain huts, and self-service cabins throughout this region. In this presentation, we will make specific reference to the White Mountains, a core region in northern New Hampshire and western Maine that was initially designated as a national forest in 1918. Today, the White Mountain National Forest forms the heart of an 800,000-acre destination that receives as many as 7 million visitors annually. As a popular year-round recreational destination, AMC has produced its White Mountain Guide since 1907, the oldest continuously published trail guide in North America. Each of the 31 editions has been accompanied with large format, cartographically rendered trail maps. We'll take a brief look back at the foundations of AMC's map-making enterprise, then an overview of the digital transformation. One of the earliest maps of the White Mountain region was created by Jeremy Belknap in 1784 as part of a scientific exploration. Numerous maps followed, inspired by further exploration, geologic and political interests, as well as tourism. AMC published one of its first maps of the White Mountains in 1887. We can say with some certainty that it was not rendered using Avenza software. Note the use of hatchers predating the common use of contour lines to depict slope and relief. A plane table was used for plotting field observations. Beginning in the late 1880s, Lewis Cutter created many of the trail maps that were published by AMC. Through manual updating of hand-drawn acetates, an awkward and cumbersome process, his 1916 map of the Mount Washington Range was in continuous use into the 1990s, a span of 80 years. These were the maps that I was hired to replace with digital cartography in 1996. A complete illustrated history of AMC's map-making and trail building in the White Mountains is documented in a Centennial Retrospective, published in 2007. My initial task was to identify the resources that I would need to build and produce digital maps. There was no cookbook methodology at the time. Esri ArcView 3, PC ArcInfo, and Idrisi were the GIS tools available at the time, used primarily for scientific and environmental analysis. How many people remember that ESRI stands for Environmental Systems Research Institute? Digital source data was scarce and rudimentary. Digital line graph and E00 were common formats, as was the North American datum of 1927. Some state highways and even a section of federal interstate highway had not yet been incorporated into the digital coverages of the Department of Transportation. We had to drive these roads with GPS to obtain the data. And information about the backcountry, which is what we were particularly interested in, was poorly represented, if at all. For contours, we had to contract with an engineering firm for the line tracing of Mylar separates from the U.S. Geological Survey, the USGS quadrangle maps that were originally plotted using stereoscopic photogrammetry. Edge matching of quadrangle coverages required some artistic license. One of the primary goals in producing accurate trail maps was to have accurate trail information. As we know, the USGS was not on the ground mapping trails in the backcountry with any degree of accuracy. Trails data was quite schematic and not reliable. After all, how evident are trails under forest canopy from aerial photos? Our challenge was to inventory 1,400 miles of trails in the White Mountain region with differential GPS. A comparison of the results illustrates that many trails were misrepresented by or built after the USGS renderings. We have endeavored to inventory firsthand all the trails we publish and field check updates for each new edition. We have found that crowdsourced trail information can be lacking or unreliable with respect to permissible public access, recent trail relocations, amenities, potential hazards, and condition of treadway features. We work closely with land managers and landowners. In fact, our detailed protocols for trail inventory preceded the capabilities of many state and federal agencies. Our GPS data seeded many agencies' early GIS programs. To keep all this in perspective, this was an era when internet service providers and 3G cellular service were just opening up in the public domain. GPS Block 2 satellites were subject to selective availability, the intentional distortion of real-time GPS positioning for national security purposes. Although email was available, we relied on fax transmittals for project documents. As an indicator of the times, my original digital map files were sent to a printer in Boston on an iOmega Jazz drive via a Concord coach bus. What we take for granted today was a significant undertaking in the 1990s. Although useful for compiling, attributing, and assimilating GIS source data, GIS software was not proficient at rendering cartographic product. For that purpose, we used Macromedia Freehand version 7 with the Avenza map publisher added. Despite the initial GIS, GPS, Freehand interoperability constraints, I've been using Avenza map publisher since 1996. We've since had to migrate from Freehand to Adobe Illustrator, but the use of map themes and style sheets allow us to brand our products consistently across multiple publications and editions, which we strive to update typically every 5 years. In addition to the White Mountain Guide, AMC has produced recreational trail maps for several regions throughout the northeastern United States, requiring field inventory, data collection, and assimilation in several states. Today, we post many of our print published maps on the Avenza Maps platform, while continuing to sell print published maps and guidebooks. We see digital map distribution as an expedient way to issue updated content between print editions. We are hopeful that Avenza Maps will support feature functionality sometime in the future. Having developed a workflow for digital map production, what are the opportunities for the future? With the availability of Lidar data, we are now able to produce more detailed terrain models, along with more accurate contours, summit locations, and elevations. These terrain models can be used for trail statistics, such as surficial distance and slope, provided that the high-density terrain models and accurate trail data, which is densely granular and smooth, are used. 3D visualization and viewshed analyses are critical tools for informing our conservation policy, such as the appropriate siting of energy infrastructure projects and land use planning that could potentially impact natural and recreational resources. Thank you for this opportunity to share AMC's history of mapmaking with you. I'd be happy to entertain questions and discussion.